Good evening. My name's Steve Marvel. I'm a survival specialist, and this is Crucial Survival. I'm going to talk to you this evening about the myth that is fire and shelter are not only terms that you should be considering, but that they are, in fact, part of the priorities. Not at all, but should not be bundled in at the beginning with this when you're considering things, when you're considering, in no particular order, water, shelter, fire, food, rescue, navigation. These terms are set in stone for some reason, some old doctrine, and it's just the complete wrong way of thinking. And by keeping those terms in your head continuously, you're going to make a mistake if you're out in the wilds, in trouble, and you're using these terms rigidly in your mind. I'm going to tell you what's really important at this point. You have two types of priority: rescue priorities and staying alive priorities. They are complementary. Rescue is really, really important to get home. Staying alive in the meantime, whilst you get rescued, is basically the way it works. You don't have a bunch of priorities with some rescue sprinkled in the middle. There's rescue and there's staying alive. They support each other. So, assuming rescue's over there, we have staying alive. Now, this is where you get this shelter, fire, water, food business going on. And this is where the problem starts. And it's not about shelter, fire, water, food. It's about don't let your body destroy itself by allowing it to be out of balance. There's a term, homeostasis, which is the body wants to be exactly the same. It wants to be just the same temperature, have just the right blood pressure, like the right blood glucose. It wants the right hydration. It wants the right pH and all sorts of things. But it just wants to stay the same. It can go, if you get it too far out of kilter, it starts doing weird things. And at every degree you get, not temperature degree, but every degree you get away from this stasis, this static, this normal state, the worse it gets, mostly in the mind. So, been homeostasis for a while as a term. Think of it as keep it all the same. Just keep everything the same. Yeah. If you are too hot, get cooler. If you are dehydrated, drink something. If you are lacking nutrition, eat something. If you are too cold, warm up. You know, imagine there's where you're supposed to be. If you go too far that way, you come back. If you're going in the opposite direction, you come back. If you're doing this wrong, you bring back. And to a certain extent, the body will do that, help you do that. If you start getting cold, you'll start shivering, etc. But what you want to be thinking in terms of staying alive is not fire, water, shelter, nutrition in no particular order. You don't just think of terms, think human body wants to stay the same. And so what is it that's going to be a problem quickest? And that's exposure. That's going to be temperature. Temperature of the body changing is the worst thing that's going to happen. It's the thing that's going to balls you up really, really quickly. Unless, of course, it's a beautiful July afternoon. What I'm saying is, in extremis, temperature will do you in first. It could be exceptionally hot. You will need extra hydration. But if you're exceptionally cold, you could freeze to death before you need hydration at all. So think temperature. Is your temperature right? It doesn't matter if it's up or down. It's just, is it right? That's the thinking. It's like, what's changing my temperature? Is it my clothing is wrong? Is it the exposure to the environment? It is wrong. Is the ambient temperature too cold? Because at this point, when you're considering ambient temperature, rain and wind, which is, when I say rain, I mean precipitation. Yeah, if you've basically got something wet coming out of the sky, if you've got wind and you've got ambient temperature problems, these three are basically what's going to cause the most significant change in your body temperature in either direction. This is what you've got to consider. The things that you can control is whether or not you can go into the shade, whether or not you can build a shelter, whether or not you do need to build a fire, whether or not you to take clothes off or put clothes on. This is the way you have to think. It's not about fire and shelter. It's not even about protection, which is fire, shelter, and clothing. It's about temperature. It's about exposure to the environment. It's about ambient temperature. It's about rain. It's about wind. And it's how you combat those changes to your body temperature. If you don't have to, or you don't anticipate that you have to, then so what? Just do something else. Make some signal fires. Try and repair a radio. But that is the mentality that you've got to adopt, is understanding that all staying alive is about making sure your body doesn't change from where it is. If it's got enough water in it, that's fine. You don't need to bang loads of water into it. If you're not dehydrating, you're not dehydrating. That's fine. But if you're getting too cold, you need to warm up. If you're absolutely knackered because you're trying to trek off of a mountain down to the tree line, eat some food, because you can last so many howevers without food. But you try it. You try and do any work. You try and build a shelter. You try hiking without any food in you, you'll know about it. So it's all about getting back to where you were, where the good constant is, where the blood pressure is right, where, like I say, where the pH is right. All of these silly little things that, to a certain extent, the body will help what's the word? Compensate for. But it can only go so far, and you have to do the rest of the compensation. So, to summarize, fire shelter, clothing, protection, and of all of its friends, water, nutrition, water, food, are just words that people have adopted through this now ancient doctrine, survival doctrine, that is just completely the wrong way round of thinking about things. There's rescue, i.e. getting home, and how we do that. And there is staying alive. And staying alive is literally about homeostasis, or basically keeping everything constant. So all you've got to do is work out what's changing and what you can do about it. And that might mean making a fire, and it might not, but don't keep it in your head that that is a singular priority that's on a list somewhere. Get it? If you need a bit more of explanation, because I've whittled on a bit, stick it in the comments. Let me know what you think of this particular problem as I see it, this old doctrine. And yeah, if you've got any other ideas how to encapsulate that better in less than 12 and a half minutes, that would be great. And other than that, if you like the content, thumbs up, subscribe, of course, bell, and all of the good stuff. I do stuff on Facebook every day. I do things on YouTube 2 or 3 times a week. And I'll catch you in the next one.